that regularly, but anyway, so this is a unity church, and we're in, I think, and so there is a unity prayer that I'm sure you all know, and I'm going to say it in Hawaiian, okay? You can all say it with me if you ever know. Ka malama o kia kua, e ho'opuni mai ia ka ko. Kia aloha kia kua, I kupuni mai ia ka ko. Ka mana kia kua, o ho'opakele, mai ia ka ko. Kia aloha kia kua, e malama mai ia ka ko. Ka ko, e hele a koe, I he a koe no. Amene. Kapule no ke malu malu, kapule lokahi. The prayer for protection, the unity prayer. You know, I was told that that y'all needed to hear some Hawaiian, so that's why I came in chanting like that, okay? Hawaiian is an interesting language. More vowels and consonants. In fact, I like to tell the story. I have a friend who is a linguist, very into language and such, and studies it. And what happened was that he came to Hawaii to study with me years ago. We're driving down the freeway, and all of a sudden he looked up and he goes, oh my God, and I thought, oh what, there's a flying saucer or something, And all it was the name of a city over there that's outside of Honolulu called Aiea. And he was freaking out because all it had was vowels. A-I-E-A. That's how you spell it, So interesting. I'd never noticed that. Well, Aiea, so what? It was a big deal for him. Anyway, So it's interesting. Well, what we're here for tonight, as I'm sure most of you know, is to hear from the guides that I work with, and they're going to share with us their views on some of the current world events. Now, at the time when we planned this, mind you, which is like months ago, I had no idea it would get so timely and so, relevant as it is tonight. So, frankly, it's just a little bit of trepidation that I'm here. You're like, what are they going to say? And yet, of course, everything they say so far, anyway, has always been, I think, very uplifting and basically true. When I began working with these guides years ago, it was back in 1985, and mind you, when I speak about guides, I'm talking about, real people here, right? People just like us, spirits. When we talk about spirits, what is a spirit? A spirit's a person. It just doesn't happen to be dragging around a physical body like the rest of us, okay? So, spirits. Well, when I began working with them, they, we had to, have a little contract. We had to negotiate the deal. And my only consideration, my only condition was, all I asked, because in the early days I am what they call a trance medium. I am what they call a deep trance medium, which means that I go into a very deep trance state. And in the early days I was completely unaware. It was just like going to sleep, we're going to take a nap, and I'd wake up, what did they say? And so obviously it implied a lot of trust. It's like when you lend somebody your car, right, your vehicle, right? You better know them pretty good. So we had to talk about it, obviously, and I found I didn't have many conditions, and all I said was just that nothing that comes through ever insults my intelligence or anybody else's. That was the main deal, Because, I had already heard, I'd been to a few so-called trance mediums or channelers or whatever, and some of the stuff I'd heard, I went, oh my God, please. I hope I don't want to be part of a circus like this. It was just crazy. This is Zeton from Zemar, and, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, now I don't want to, I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes here. Maybe some of your channelers or trance mediums, but and maybe your guide's name is Zeton, forgive me, But all I meant was that some of the stuff just really sounded pretty hokey. It was way out there. And more than anything, and it wasn't just the funny names, it was that I didn't hear much substance. That's what it came down to. It's not a matter of who's saying it, it's what are they saying. I could sit up here and say I'm channeling God or anybody, Lord Michael, name it, Albert Einstein. Prove it. Let's hear what have they got to say. You would think such beings would have something of value to say, something of depth, something that's going to, cause you to think a little bit, and, should be anyway. Otherwise, what's the point? Why go through all the trouble? I'll just sit here and talk myself, or any of you could. So that is the point that I wanted to make. And as the guides that work with me have often said, and as they continue to reiterate, that they say, we feel that one should pay much more attention to the message and not the messenger. And there was one master who once said, if the messenger of God is an ant, you should heed him. And I believe that, So, we know how omens are. The Native American people, the Hawaiians, all ethnic people close to the earth, have always watched for omens and signs, because they know that that's nature or God's way, if you will, of communicating with us. So we do that. So again, I would simply say that for you all tonight. It's not so much who claims to be speaking or me or anything, but let us hear what they have to say about what's going on. I mean, we all have our views on what's going on out there in the world. It's pretty serious. I think it's getting more so. I feel like every minute it's a little scary, actually. And yet, their messages have been concerning this have been, consistently, I find fairly comforting. So I don't imagine they're going to come through and say any terrible thing. The world's going to end tomorrow. I don't think so. I'd be very surprised. So I don't think that's going to happen. Of course, it wouldn't be the first time either, would it? So for those of you who have never, witnessed a trance medium, what's about to happen is that I am about to it'll look like I'm just dozing off, and I'm getting bored of the conversation. But no, I will deliberately and consciously be attempting to get so out of the way that there can be a lot more of them and a lot less of me. So I become more and more basically like a clear pane of glass through which they can manifest. And I have no idea what they're going to say, except for, of course, the subject matter, which we all know. So we all know about the same thing right about now. So I'm going to do that, and let's see what comes through. My dear friends, good evening unto each one, and a very fond reunion event. I note that this very eve, it is that of St. Valentine's Day, and I'm very, very gratified of it. Why should I be? Well, perhaps because it's an event of love, isn't it? It's something that generally is celebrated with, the celebration of affection and love and hearts and things of that nature. So be it, so be it. Let us all be at ease here, we come not to bring dire news of things to come. We come only to share with you our own insights. And mind you, in so doing, and always and ever, we want this to be understood. We claim no infallibility. We claim no authority save that of our own truths. So let that be quite understood, that why, it would be as if I were, well, perhaps your guest of honor, And I am honored to be such, that I can sit here and share with you not only my insights, but those of others with whom I am associated. I function primarily as a spokesman for the particular council of which I am affiliated. And currently we are attempting to speak to the medium's vocal cords as best as we can to get our own thoughts across the more clearly too. And so it is that we begin. Well, so, any of you out there buying duct tape? Is that what's going on there? Very well, well, you should. But if you've bought it, is that you felt to buy it, And so it is, so it is. And I say to you, dear ones, these be indeed the times to do that thing that you find in your heart to do. Oh, yes. I say that unless ye be following your hearts, ye be at risk indeed. So that would be our first suggestion, if you will, that you be in touch with what goes on right here. That you perhaps take a bit of time, and if ever before you did not, now just might be the time to begin that thing called meditation, contemplation at least, wherein one would silence the outer senses, and attempt to become aware of what you can't see, or perhaps hear, or perhaps perceive with only physical senses alone. As you all know, the soul hath its senses even as the body. And what is clairvoyance, if not simply the sight of the soul? That is all. Anything you can't see with your physical sight, but that you yet can see to the point of description, well, then you must be using that faculty. I dare say most use it anon, constantly, and don't think of it that way. All day long they're using their clairvoyant sense and their clairaudient sense, perhaps, in the perception of the thoughts of those they can't see. And you ask them, are you psychic? No, not me. No, of course not. Oh, really? I say that each and every one of you got here tonight based on a psychic sense. No exceptions, not a one. It was that of your intuition. Did anyone drag you here? I trust not. Were you brought in irons? I see none such, and I hope not to. No. No, my dear friends, it's time that we come to see that we, all of us, have got a guardian, nay, a savior, that speaks to us from within. But unless we listen to that one, well, I just don't know, especially now in these times that we do enter. So. You are being warned about dire things to come or that might approach at any moment. Well, of course, it's only reasonable to take note of such things. Yet, I tell you that the brave, the truly brave, do what they must do based on their own hearts, regardless of outer circumstance. What else is bravery, if not following through in the face of such things? When there have been no such odds, then of course there's no bravery to be seen. You simply go about your business, don't you? So then, these be the times not so much to try men's souls or women's hearts, as these be the times when we should look about and see, what can I do to bring comfort to yet another? One who perhaps has got not the footing that I might have upon this mountain of consciousness. Yes. Oh, my beloved, look deep into these times And I say that there you shall find not fear, but opportunity with a capital O. Yeah, opportunity to go into those places that you work with a smile on your face, not as one who is silly and giddy and unaware, but as one who's quite aware of all things that can come about, and yet knows that there's something far grander than any shenanigans of humanity. You are, all of you, divine. You know it. It is written in your law, ye are gods and goddesses adorned. How then can ye fear mortal machinations? Fear is not the appropriate stance to take, I say. And when you define yourselves going into that dark corner, I suggest you stop right where you are and say, wait now. I'll not do it. What did that old man tell me? All right, I believe he might have made some sense, and if so, well, let me try it out right here and now. You go then, go to your places of work, go to your schools, go to your families, go to your meetings, go to your circles, go where you go. Walk down the street, radiating not fear, but love. A love that can't be burned out, can't be poisoned, and can't be gassed. I don't think so. My friends, I trust you'll not feel that I'm making light of what occurs on the earth plane. Not at all. Indeed, could it just be, that I just might know something about it that makes me not come here with fear writ large on my face? What if I told you it isn't quite what it appears to be? What if I told you that all that seemingly has been perpetrated upon you is really just the death throes of a dark force that is going down and would just like to take you with it? But they'll not, I tell you. They'll not. But they can't. They've got no power. Know it, my dears. They've got no power. You've got to know that. I tell you, I've stood in wars at the side of those who are fighting, and I've said, they've got no power. Defend yourself, defend your country, perhaps, this in the war zone, mind you. But don't fear. I should like to tell you a little story. It just so occurs that there be those great and holy beings who do oversee the, well, let us say the destiny of humanity. These magnificent beings, known by various names in various cultures, and to us as the lords of karma, these magnificent beings must adhere to cosmic law. That is, after all, their function, isn't it? Why, if you must have an analogy on the earth plane, I should think it would be that of your American Supreme Court justices. They are the final word of the law. How is it interpreted? Well, they say, yea, let it play itself out. But only then will it come to be seen who's who and what's what around here. There's been too much facade here once. Far too much facade. Now, I note that there's a lot of speculation, murmuring, you might say, amidst you all, and well, the lot really, everyone, about who's behind all of this, who's really at the bottom of this, eh? Is it Mr. Saddam Hussein? Is it others? Well, in a sense, I tell you, it matters not. Who cares what's in a name? It's what's the game. That's what you got to look at. What game are they playing? So it doesn't matter, you see, what you want to call them and whether they be this one, that one, or the next. Your only concern, we think, should be that of one who will not be spoken down to, who will not be intimidated, and who will not be told lies that your heart is not agreeing with. That's what. I'm not here to preach Insurrection, certainly, much less treason. I, of all people, have had ever and always a great and holy love for patriotism, whether it be England, whether it be America, whether it be any country. And by that I say, and you might dislike me for it, that goes for the so-called Iranians as well. I hate no one. I can't. How can I? When I've stood in the presence of a Lord of love. That changed that for me forever. As have you all, though you don't recall it right now, perhaps in your mortalities. But most of you do. And I can see that beautiful pink glow in your auras. So, dear ones, to proceed. When we look then at what goes abroad here, it's not a matter of countries, you see, and how easily one can fall into that. Oh, those Iranians, the Iraqis, or whatever they are. I tell you, if you could see them as we do, oh my God, you would see some frightened people. Oh, far more frightened than you. Look where they stand. These are people who are at this point in the crosshairs of weapons aimed at them by the greatest and most powerful country in the world. You think they're not frightened? Oh, I wish I could convince you to send them love. That is what they need. That is what we all need. Not fear, not hatred, not resentment, that their skin might be brown, that children love as yours do, I tell you. So, dear ones, can't we just, in a sense, symbolically, join hands across the globe? I tell you, it is the way of the Christ. And if ye be Christians, and if ye be Buddhists, and if ye be Jews, and if ye be any religion, Muslims, Hindus, any, all religions include love. And that is its cornerstone. And if you forgot it, then it is my pleasure and privilege to remind you. So, dear ones, what I've got to tell you is this. Each and every one of you can certainly make a very large, large difference. Yeah. It was my holy privilege to watch when the very elegant, eloquent, and celebrated Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did speak one time through the medium, this one, through whom I am now speaking. Only once he spoke. Oh, but powerful it was. And what did he say? He was speaking to what he referred to as his people, and that certainly was not limited to people of the African American persuasion or body. He meant everybody who believed in freedom and opposed racism, bigotry, and that which seeks to dominate the human spirit, for which he lived and for which he died. And he said, oh, my people, he said, I see some of you cowering. I see some of you crying. I see some of you feeling poor because your pockets are empty. He says, but you are not too poor that you can't pray. And you're not so poor that you can't send thoughts of love to the world and heal it. And as such, you are rich, every one of you. And oh my, all of us were moved. Is it not the truth? So you see, it is that same message, in my own humble way, I should want to share with you this evening. That each and every one of you is a dynamo of creation. Look into your lives. Look what you've created. Since you were little toddlers, you created your own path, for one thing. It wasn't your parents, it was you. You created the houses that you were born into. You created your educations. You created your ability to, well, survive this far anyway. No small feat. And you're still doing it, aren't you? Look at you. Sitting about. I don't know that I see anyone here in terribly dire straits. Oh, I know a few. Oh, but what about me? Oh, dear ones. Again, the words of Dr. King ring out. You're not that poor. So what I'm getting at is that what I've got here in this room is an army. Each and every one of you has got a firearm in your hearts and in your minds, but it isn't one that fires bullets, but it fires love kisses. Fire at will. Take good aim now, not at me, fire at will. What I'm telling you is this. And yea, there are so-called dark forces. What are these? They are souls who for the longest time, we can't understand why, life after life, have insisted that the best way to get anything done is by cheating, stealing, murdering, the lot. Foolish in the extreme. Perhaps it's that there's so much has been, until thus far, there's been such a time lapse, betwixt cause and effect. They murder this person and then nothing seems to happen to them for a while. They think they got away with it. Well, let's do it again. And somehow they've been hoodwinked into thinking that you can get away with murder. Not so. So what I'm saying to you is that there are those forces, and they be upon this planet still, unfortunately, who labor under that heavy yoke of, well, I must call it cosmic ignorance, but some would call it stupidity. They think they can get things done the hard way, which is by the underhanded method. Not by love, but by might makes right, all of that. And these are the ones that are tempting, and they're up to their old ways, which are so tired at this point, don't you think? Boring, passé. They're still trying to do things of that genre. It's not working, is it? It's not working. And yet, they've got just enough of that power, just enough of that influence, and have so duped younger souls who are hungry for power into thinking that if they only do things that way, they'll have it, and they temporarily seem to get it, that they've got a bit of a little residue following them. Unfortunately, many of these just happen to be a lot of the world leaders. That's the problem. So what have you got? You got a bunch of adolescents arguing, threatening to push buttons, threatening one another, whilst everyone else is going, please, there's a peaceful way to do it. Would that they could see it like the rest of us. So what are we saying? That in that temporarily, it appears as if your hands are tied, only because you've got not the political power to say, stop that. So it appears that way. You might feel rather helpless. Oh my God, what shall I cut next? What shall I find in tomorrow's headlines? I say, don't wait. I say, you decide. Yes, you decide it, my dears. For everyone and anyone that's incarnate upon the physical plane at this time is the authority for that plane. That's cosmic law. We who have been where you are, and perchance shall be there again, are not any longer deputized or authorized to do very much at all, unless you invite us, of course. And if so, we shall be very happy to join you. Get it? Hint? You've got helpers. You've got an army. Would that you could see us. Why, right now, to my sight, those of you incarnate, those of you in physical bodies appear to be, in comparison, like a small little basket underneath a huge balloon. That balloon would represent the rest of us here. You can't say physically. Oh, there's a lot of it here. All of your loved ones, they're quite around you. Can't you feel them? Your guardian angels, your guides, your loved ones, your parents, your brethren, your children. Don't think that at times like these we would abandon you, that we'd rather be up there strumming a harp or some nonsense like that. Hardly. I don't know that I've seen a harp, really. Have to look that one up. Well, to continue. Some of you are wondering who I am. Well, who are you? What's in a name, after all? Who am I? Well, I really know that what you're probably going to accept more easily is not so much who I am, but who I've been. For at least there I can give you a name of sorts. Who have I been? Well, many people, just like yourselves. What, doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, all of it. But most recently, last footprints in the earthly sands in 1930, I believe. I do believe I ended up so-called dying while sitting up in a chair just like this. Shall I do it again? Actually, I shall. It's a matter of minutes. I'll vacate this form, but then, of course, the meeting will take over again. He is the rightful tenant, after all. Well, I was an author, a writer, by choice and by trade. And I am surprised to see that some of those old books that I did pen are still gathering dust in many places, the Sherlock Holmes mysteries. My name in that life was Conan Doyle, Arthur Conan Doyle. And it was my great love to not so much do the mysteries of Sherlock Holmes, though God knows, it seems that's what the world recalls me for, but to repair to places like a seance room. Does that shock you? A seance room, yes. What is a seance room? Well, a place where you can go and speak with the dead. I'm on the other side of it, aren't I? Here I am. The thing is, my dears, that it was, to me, the most fascinating thing in all of my physical existence to know that there was no death and therefore there are no dead. That my beloved son, in the first case, was not lost to me forever, but quite alive, happy, and ready to help and interact with me should I care to do so, which is a new revelation. So obviously it shifted my attention away from the mysteries of Mr. Holmes. Indeed, I, was so, as you would say, done with, I know a bit of those colloquialisms, Sherlock Holmes that I thought I'd just kill him off, Let him, how shall I do this? I know. Him and his arch enemy shall go over Rickenbacker Falls. They'll just die together. That's it. The end of Sherlock Holmes. It wasn't to be so easy. I got bags of mail. You brute! How could you do this? You killed Sherlock Holmes. It was such an outcry, I was amazed. I thought, but he's but a fictional character. But not to them. Then I realized he was like a friend. He was someone that they projected a certain aspect of themselves into. And so, of course, they did not want to see him die. So, of course, I had to bring him back to life. And so I did in subsequent volumes. But I still, had to get away from it. What was I to do? Well, you know what? I retired him to beekeeping. That's it. Sussex. To come back at any time, at his own sweet will, perhaps when Scotland Yard couldn't solve the case. So that was my Sherlock Holmes involvement. But then, of course, my great love was that of the spirit and what lies beyond this earthly life. And so it is that I begin to frequent seance rooms indeed. When, oh my, were my eyes opened. When time after time after time, I spoke with people that were so-called dead. I don't know how many times I stammered, but the last time I saw you was at your funeral. They said, yes, indeed. Wasn't it lovely? Yeah, it was really rather. Saw Mrs. Jones singing the song. Yes, it was quite nice. We'd talk about it like it was a picnic. I learned to make light of death. And I still do. So, my dears, now you can all say you've been hearing a dead man speak to you. Oh, my. But that is not the point of coming, not to speak of myself, save that I know there's a few of you here who are quite curious about Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes involvement, and so I thought I would just share a bit with you. But now, to proceed. It's not over, you know that. Not over. That is what they call the backlash of the dragon's tail. You stab it with your sword, Excalibur. It appears to be dead. And just when you're ready to make merry, whack, here comes the tail, round the back, to take you down with it. That is what you are experiencing. Do you know that? The sword of truth has already pierced the heart of darkness. You are all enlightened to the degree that you are. And for that reason, for that very reason, it's over. At least the major conflict, it is. But I'll tell you what, it's not completed. There's the cleanup to do. And that's what you're dealing with. So, what can you do? Let's roll our sleeves up and get on with this thing. You can begin every single day of your sweet lives with a prayer on your lips. If you don't like the word prayer, how about an invitation? How's that? Does that suit you? Some say, I don't like to pray. I've prayed and God didn't hear me. Didn't give me what I wanted. Don't pray no more. I understand, dear ones, I understand. But I also know this, that cosmic law states that the call compels the answer. Indeed. So when you invoke, when you ask, when you pray, there must come some response from heaven. That is the law. I once heard someone say, well, God doesn't always come when you call, but he always comes on time. I like that. But now let me throw another one at you. When it is your time to so-called die, nothing shall so-called save you. Nothing. But when it isn't, nothing can kill you. That is true. So you see, my dears, what's the point in worrying? Why the duct tape? Save your shekels for more pleasant things. Really? Do you really think duct tape will save you? I think not. I think not. No. One thing I'll tell you, and it's this. Again, it matters not what names are worn by those that are your enemies. Oh, I could give you a few. It might shock a few of you. A few of you might be so upset you'd get up and walk out. The nerve! How dare he say such a thing? Well, I said it. You'll get over it. But it would serve no purpose, would it? Merely to cause an uproar. And what's more, and what's worse, it would take your attention off the point that it's only a matter of light and darkness. And that is all, my beloved. Light and darkness. So if you truly want to be in effect, you've only to be the light. Send the light, project it, aim it. I've told you, you've got your firearm right there betwixt your eyes. Right here, boom. Send beams of light directly at those that are in darkness. You don't even have to know their names. Some of you think you do know their names, though, don't you? You jump up in a minute and tell me. Perhaps I would agree with you. But that's not the point. The point is, let's keep it simple. It's a matter of light and darkness. In darkness, one finds fear. One can be intimidated. One can feel as if one's spirit is sagging. All of that only occurs in darkness, but not in light. So I say, draw light as never before. And send it where you will. Every single one of you can do that. No exceptions. Now, it wasn't so long ago. Many of you were quite shocked, some of you to the point of heartbreak and tears, when you saw that thing related upon your news media about the Columbia and the great light in the sky that took several beautiful souls right out of your world and right into ours. Well, let me tell you something about that. Years ago, there was another one like that, wasn't there? What was it called? A Challenger? Similar. At that time, that was years ago, we were asked point blank, what was that all about? Why did that have to occur? What went wrong? Well, at that particular point, you were still dealing with another type of darkness. There was still that thing called the so-called Cold War going on. Do you recall it? In the Soviet Union. Unfortunately, it was quite a bastion for that thing. Well, it just so occurred that members of that government had a very interesting fascination with psychic phenomena. A particular type of psychic phenomena, not reading people's minds, not seeing the future. No. Those are useless in warfare, at least for the most part. No, they were interested in the ability to move things without having to physically touch them. It's called telekinetic ability. They were also interested in the ability to leave one's physical body at will. Now, what happens when you've got someone that can do both? You've got a very potent weapon. You've got someone that can go out of their body, physical body, and astrally go to the control panel of something like the Challenger and move dials enough to cause an explosion. That was the sad case, wasn't it? But you know, though these be the inner workings of that event, not necessarily this one, mind you, that was not the point. Oh yes, so we could describe how it was done. It didn't change much. And it didn't illuminate the point that there is what we call the mass karma, the consequences of everybody's actions working together. And that it was the mass karma of not just the planet as a whole, but those that were allowed to be the leaders of yourselves, that were not standing up and saying, wait a minute, we don't agree with the fact that there be millions of souls on this planet that are hungry tonight, that have got no place to lay their heads, and you are taking billions of dollars and trying to find out something about a rock on Mars. I call that insane. If my baby sister is dying of hunger and I'm investing $5 million in a science experiment, woe to me. Woe to me. That is the state of affairs, my friends. Think of it. Your governments, your leaders, they've not solved your most dire problems. There's hunger, diseases, homelessness, poverty, mismanagement of resources, on and on and on, one bane after another. Many of these could be alleviated with money, but no, they want to go to the moon. I call that insane. And insanity must meet its righteous end. Now, I am not here to say I am happy that those unfortunate people had to leave their physical bodies. What I am here to say is that, unfortunately, in so doing, they were martyrs. Some of you cried when you saw those faces. Some of you wept tears when you were shown those videos, I believe, of the individuals, and they were laughing and hello, mum, and this kind of thing, And why did they go? I tell you this, they laid down their lives knowing it, not consciously, but they knew it. And they went and they went and they went, and now they're with us. And by the by, they're quite happy. So save your tears. They knew what they were doing. They did it deliberately. Martyrs, perhaps. But let not their deaths be in vain. Were I you, I should mentally take the stance. I do not agree with the space race. I agree with humanity being comforted. And unless you do it, and unless you can see the truth of that, my friends, then cry not again when the next one happens. You might as well be the one that does it. Let us please start to see things in a sane way, and the only way that can truly be done is through the eyes of love. Let us solve the earth's problems before we want to go off into Uranus. Is on your doorstep. Behold. So, dear ones, use your minds, won't you? Use your hearts, use your love more than anything. And every day, ask that divine intervention occur. Some of you just didn't think of it, did you? Some of you didn't know it existed. Well, now, neither one can be used as an excuse. Your good health. And begin to use your minds as they were intended to be used, won't you? To create the world you want to live in. The reason that you're here, hearing of all of this catastrophe that's supposedly hanging over your heads is that you've simply not wished it away, that's all. Be done with it. It's nonsense. Unnecessary at that. You can do it. I am not a Pollyanna. I'm not here to say, oh, all is well, you don't have to worry. Not here to do it. But indeed, unless you do begin to use your consciousness to start to generate creation in a most loving way, in a most serious way, you've got plenty to worry about. The wolf is at the door, and the demon beckons him on. I say, let us all push that demon right off the earth. I say, let us all focus and say, wait a minute. Who is doing this to us anyway? Who is making me feel unsafe in my own home? Who is causing my child to shudder for fear and ask me, Mom, Daddy, will we be alive tomorrow? Who is doing this to me? That's what I say. And you must, all of you, turn about and say, whoever it is, let them receive the judgment of Almighty God right now on their heads. That's what I say. Instead of living in fear, wondering what you're going to read the next day, like so many little church mice. Dear ones, you are God's. Act like them. Use your powers. You've got them, I tell you. And push this vermin off the earth. And I am right there with you. Else I should not be here at all. I love you all. And I know that you are all of you powerful beings. And it is to that very power within you I refer you. You've got what it takes. You've all heard, well, God does not give me more than I can take. Indeed. You've got the backpack, look inside it. There you'll find a user's manual. Thumb through it. The chapter called Your Mind. Now, my dears, I know good and well that many of you were not told these things. You were not taught these things. You are not to blame in that sense. But now, at least you've heard my version of it, which again is that of many of us. I tell you all about stand and nod their heads in sweet agreement. Were we in your places, we probably couldn't see it either. And so we all got together and said, what do they need? They need to be told, that's all. They need to be told. And
And in that I've always been one who, well, let's just say, doesn't tend to lack for words. Well, they sent me. Forgive me, my brash ways. But I am here as your friend and as your brother, and I say enough of this nonsense. Don't yield to it one more moment, much less run from it. I say that darkness must be on the run, not your sweet selves, not your sweet children, and not your sweet parents. Now, it brings me to another point. I see, as I look about, beautiful golden auras here, and I don't know that there's even one person here that totally disagrees with me. But please, Arthur, don't go home now like warriors and, start to rabble-rouse, knocking on the neighbors' doors. Hey, did you know what? Or perhaps we should. Do it as you will, dear ones, but what I'm trying to say is not all will be able to grasp these things. Why, you yourselves are only grasping to the degree that you are, that you're willing to, and that you can. Nope. We can't expect all to see things as we do, but we therefore are responsible for what we do see. And to do nothing is to simply inherit the wind and all things that it might bring. Well, that is my message for this eve. I suppose some of you expected me to go into, names and numbers and whatnot, but no, it wasn't necessary, was it? However, I'm afraid I must leave you with one rather somber thought, and it is this. The darkness that I've been referring to, the darkness that was behind that so-called 9/11 incident, that darkness is not coming from far away. That darkness is close enough to be right within your own country, isn't it? So I say, it is where you stand and sit that you must take your stance. I suggest that you think openly about possibilities, and again, rather than trying to seek a name or a face, just know one thing: it is encroaching, and it is encroaching quickly. Stop it. Like that movie, I seem to recall, I was already dead at the time it came out, I believe, but I was watching something about a fog that seemed to be coming in, killing people off bit by bit. Finally, somebody got a good idea and they rolled it back. Wait a minute. Fog doesn't do well with this, fire extinguisher. That's the way to go. Send it back where it came from. Send it back in. Be who you are, divine in essence and in heart. And together we pledge to help you if you ask us. We're going to roll this thing right off the earth, never again to return. It's in the last stages, my friends, and your days of, shall I say, happy livings are not that far off. I leave you with these thoughts and with our love, and that shall ever be with you. God bless you all. God bless you all. Good evening. So often happens whenever the guides speak, and afterwards there's really nothing I can say. I'm just like, how do you follow something like that? I hear it. So it was like I was sitting out there with you just listening to it, and I think it's definitely certainly something we can think about and use. As I said at the beginning, they've never failed to share with us things that I think are practical, versus just, talking about something that's way out there that doesn't seem to make much difference. So anyway, thank you all for coming and for sharing and for being so attentive and so so open. So I really appreciate that. I'm really happy to see, I've been doing this work for about 30 years, by the way, and I'm really happy to see so many people now being so much more open to it than used to be the case. I remember a time a long time ago when I didn't want to tell people what I did. What do you do? I'm a consultant. Anything, What am I going to say? I'm a medium, What? So, but that's changing now, isn't it? Thank you, John Edwards, James Von Prague, and all the rest of you out there, Sylvia Brown, everybody. I think it's just a matter of, it's interesting. He mentioned, he didn't just mention, he went into depth in the whole thing of the space race and all that. And I know, we probably might have mixed feelings about that, but I would say this, that I've felt for the longest time that the next frontier of humanity is not maybe so much outer space, but inner space. It's, what's between our ears. It's what we can do with our minds. I think that's really the place we should be focusing. And of course, he put it way better than that, and I could only agree with that. So anyway, again, I want to thank you for coming. Tomorrow, I'm going to be teaching a workshop on psychic development, simply because psychic development is something like you can take, like typing, like history, like remedial reading, like computer science. It's something that the human mind can learn to do. It's an ability. It's not that big a thing. It's not a mystical, weird, freaky thing that only a few people can do. I used to believe that. I used to believe you have to be born psychic and that. And in a way, everyone's born psychic, but it's like you just have to take a few classes and learn how to use what you already have. If you have an inclination to music, you might want to take some music courses, right? And they'll just show you how to use what you already have. And that's the same way it is with the psychic abilities, with clairvoyance and some of the others. You'd be surprised. Over the years, I've taught these for 20 years, maybe a lot of them. And it's always the same. I didn't know I could do that. Because you never tried, that's usually what it is. And so I like to create like a hothouse condition where you find that you can, really. You'd be surprised. So anyway, if any of you are inclined, then you can certainly do that. I think we have flyers and things there. It's at the university here, downtown, and there's information in the foyer, I think, that you could avail yourselves of if you're free to attend. And if you are, I'd like to see you all. So anyway, thank you very much. I love Portland. I want to return. God bless you. Aloha.